Well, good morning, Rotary District 7770, and welcome to Conversations with Rotary Action People for Monday, September 14th. My name is Donald Hovis from the CWRAP Rotary Club in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and I'm your CWRAP host. I would like to say a warm welcome to the CEO of the Honor Flight Network, Miss Meredith Rosenbeck. Good morning, Meredith.
Good morning. Thank you.
We look forward to hearing from you in just a moment. Up first will be the vision statement of Rotary. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Introducing your CWRAP team, our public image chair from the 5 Points Rotary Club in Columbia, the wonderful Mary Gask. Thanks again for filling in for me on Friday. And our district communications officer from the Somerville Evening Rotary Club in Somerville, Mr. Terry Moore. Thank you, Terry. Now, those of you on the call today, thank you for being here. And also over on our Facebook page, good morning. Thanks for being here. What we want you to do, some of you have already put your name in your Rotary Club in the chat box. I want you to do that, but I want you to add one thing to your introduction. We're almost through the midpoint of September already. So tell me one thing you're excited about for the remainder of the year. So we want us to have your name, your Rotary Club, and one thing you're excited about for the remainder of 2020, and hope that 2021 is a much better year than 2020. So without further ado, Meredith, once again, good morning.
Good morning.
So would you please start out by telling our viewers here the history of the Honor Flight program?
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to thank you all for having me this morning. I'm thrilled to be here and share with you one of the things that I get the most excited to share about, which is the Honor Flight Network. So we appreciate this opportunity to talk with you all so you can learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do. And hopefully you can then share with everyone you know about our program, because it's truly a wonderful program. The network was founded back in 2005, so we've been around for about 15 years. Our founders, Earl Morse and Jeff Miller, kind of both started the program on their own, actually. Jeff started a program in North Carolina, and Earl started a program here in Ohio. I am based in Ohio, although we no longer have a physical office for our national team because we are kind of spread out around the country. But Jeff and Earl came together after they realized they were both kind of trying to accomplish a similar goal, and founded the Honor Flight Network. The original goal that both Jeff and Earl shared was to get our World War II veterans at that time to the new, what was then the new World War II Memorial in DC. Earl actually coordinated the first flights. He found volunteers from his pilots club based out of Wright Pat Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, to fly individual veterans to DC sort of on their spare time and just get them to the memorial. Jeff came in and decided to start scaling the program and chartering real commercial jets to bring in, you know, way more veterans at one time than just the one or two that could fit on these, you know, on the smaller planes. And so it started out just very grassroots. And I think one of the coolest things about the Honor Flight Network, even today, is the grassroots nature of what we do, and just how our organization just has grown over the years, really organically, into what it is today. And so, you know, the history allowed us to get our World War II veterans there. As we were doing that, we've, you know, now added the Korean War Memorial, the Vietnam Wall and Memorial are also there for us now. And so as we have moved into the future, and our memorials have been developed in DC, not by Honor Flight, by the way. We don't run the memorials, and we are not responsible for any of that, but we are able to take more and more veterans with us to DC now than just World War II. And I've been in this role now for 2 years, a little over 2 years, in fact, as CEO. And when I came in, one of the biggest challenges I found that I was facing was a misnomer sort of out in the community that we only serve World War II veterans, because we started that way. We started with World War II, but that is in fact not the case. The program has now grown to serve veterans of additional conflicts, and we'll kind of get into that in a few minutes as well. But that was a big challenge for us in terms of our messaging and communication, was how do we let people know that we don't just serve World War II veterans. And in fact, it's sort of funny. I had a friend, when I took this job, a friend of mine looked at me and said, "What are you doing? Why would you take that job? We're going to run out of World War II veterans in a couple of years and you're going to be out of a job." And I was like, "Oh, no. Like, so I realized right away what that challenge was going to be actually internally, was that sort of idea that we only do serve World War II veterans. And we do still serve our World War II veterans, but it's so much more than that today.
In terms of your current operations, can you provide us some insight as to what your programming entails today?
Absolutely. So, as I said, started out very grassroots, small groups going to DC, single planes going to DC. We now have 125 hubs. We call our affiliates hubs around the United States that serve our veterans across the country. And so I am the CEO of the national organization. So I run our national office, and we are sort of policy and operation and oversight for all 125 of those hubs. I do not run all of those hubs. They are run by volunteers in the local area in which they're located. They're pretty independent in terms of running their program, how they structure everything. But we do offer that safety, policy, and operational oversight from our office. And so it's really neat how it formed, and that kind of goes back to our history, and it's such an important piece of who the Honor Flight Network is today, because we had volunteers. After a couple of years of it being just a few flights here and there, we had volunteers that traveled around the country and met with groups from the veterans organizations, the American Legions, the VFWs, I think actually maybe even some Rotary groups in certain areas, to say, hey, we want to get our veterans to DC. Will you come together as a group and help us get this up and running in your area? And so today, the way that looks, if you are in, if you're in an area, you go to the website for the hub that's in your area, and you can apply to be a veteran or a guardian on an Honor Flight trip. And the hub handles all of the coordination. They plan their own dates. We do coordinate a master schedule of flights at the national office, trying to make sure we're not overwhelming our groups in DC as well. So we have volunteers at every airport in DC that help our flights when they come in. There's groups that come and cheer on the arrival. There's groups in your home airports that cheer when our veterans come home from their day in DC. Out west, it's actually usually like a 2 or a 3 day trip, because obviously you can't get from the West Coast to the East Coast and back in a single day. Well, you could, but it would be a little bit demanding. And so all of our hubs are fantastic, mostly comprised of volunteers. There are some hubs that are larger. Chicago is one of them, for example, that do have a small staff. But otherwise, the network is largely comprised of volunteers in local areas that help us make sure our veterans are getting to their memorials. In terms of a trip day, what that looks like, and assuming a 1 day trip, because that would kind of be what your area hub would do, would be a 1 day trip. The veterans would get up, get to the airport, likely get on a chartered plane or a commercial airliner, fly to DC. They will, in that day, hop on a charter bus and visit the World War II Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, the Vietnam Memorial. They will go to the Air Force Memorial. They will go to Iwo Jima, which is the Marine Corps Memorial. And then beyond that, all of them will also go to Arlington National Cemetery. We have been very blessed to have a really wonderful relationship with Arlington National Cemetery over the years. so that our veterans, especially those in wheelchairs, we actually are allowed to bring them down to the flat ground instead of on the stairs. If any of you have ever been to a changing of the guard, everybody stands, the public stands on sort of a staircase to watch. And we're able to bring our veterans around so that they can actually see, because the grounds of Arlington aren't real accessible, but we've been able to work with them to do that. And it's truly wonderful. And we have such phenomenal volunteers that everyone, you know, they know to listen for the heel click. If anyone's been to the changing of the guard and there are veterans there, there's a special heel click that they will do to recognize the veterans that are there to see the changing of the guard, which is pretty neat. So we are so lucky to have some of these relationships, but that's kind of what a day would look like. So it's a full day. There's a lunch provided, there's food and drinks provided throughout the day, and then they would head back to the airport and fly home. When they arrive home, there are typically thousands of people, and I'm not even overestimating this, it's truly incredible, there to welcome them home. And it's really an incredible experience for the veterans, for the families. And I always love, you know, I think the digital age, the technological age that we live in today doesn't always lend itself to the ability to volunteer in person for things. You know, instead of going to help at a disaster scene, the Red Cross texts you and will say, you know, donate $10 by texting back this number. We actually you have the opportunity in your local area to go welcome your veterans home. Such a nice way for people to get involved, to actually physically go do something and feel like they've given back in some way. So it's a really, really neat program, and it's opportunity for people to participate, which is pretty cool, I think, in today's technological age, for sure.
Absolutely. So just a couple comments for you. You may see it in the chat box. A viewer here says the Beaufort Club down in Beaufort, South Carolina has been involved in honor flight for some time. And then our district governor, Pauline, says the Surfside Rotary Club here in the Myrtle Beach area has pilots participating, but not certain if it was tied to your program. And then kind of a really cool thing that our district governor, Pauline, is doing for this Rotary year is honoring our veterans in our district with a special pinning of a pin that has been designed for veterans in Rotary. So we obviously are loving to hear what you're doing for veterans in the honor flight. Can you tell the viewers maybe the closest hub to our district?
Yep, I'm gonna click away for a second because I'm gonna pull up our, let's see, pull up my map.
Because I remember a reporter in the Myrtle Beach area that he would do the honor flight. Like he got the story every time there was one done. And it seemed like it went out of Myrtle Beach.
There was a Myrtle Beach hub. It disbanded. So one of the issues that we also faced in kind of a transitioning period from the initial group, which was all, let's get World War II veterans to the World War II Memorial. We had a lot of people that felt like once they accomplished that in their area, or, you know, had accomplished most of that in their area, that they were then done. They had fulfilled the mission that they had set out to fulfill. And if there wasn't a group ready to take over and really transition the hub to serving the Korean War veterans and the Vietnam War veterans then later, the hub just kind of would disband. And so one of the things we're working really hard on now at the national office is trying to make sure that doesn't happen, that there is actually a smooth transition, because eventually I do see us serving veterans of some of the more current conflicts as well. Iraqi Freedom, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, you know, we have Afghanistan. I'm not even naming all of them, but there are memorials for those veterans in the works in DC. And again, we don't raise money for those. They are in the fundraising process and design process for some of those, but you know, we want to make sure that the transitions happen. So for you right now, there is a hub in upstate South Carolina, which is located in Simpsonville. But we also have a program. We're bringing some new hubs on in the North and South Carolina area. Actually, we've been focusing on reviving our hubs there, but we also have a national program that we actually do run through my office, and it's called the Lone Eagle program. And what the Lone Eagle program is if you don't have a hub within 2 hours of your home, which is kind of our radius, because that make, 2 hours you can get to an airport. We feel like that's pretty, a good number, reasonable. If you don't have a hub, you can fly with our Lone Eagle program. So what we would do then is we would buy your flight. We would find the nearest airport for you. As a veteran, we buy that veteran's flight. They fly into Baltimore and spend the weekend. And so they would join up then with other veterans from around the country who don't have a hub near them. We have some like Nebraska and Montana. There's not enough people in those states to really run a hub. And so we bring them in from there as well. And so they would participate in that national program, then the Lone Eagle program.
Excellent. Didn't even know that existed. So thank you for explaining that.
Make sure we serve every veteran that wants to go on their honor flight trip. One way or another, we will find them a hub or we will get them on a Lone Eagle trip to make sure that they get their trip to DC.
That's great. Well, can you tell us how COVID-19 and the pandemic has affected your programs and what does the future look like for Honor Flight?
Yes. So we had to make a decision early on. In fact, it was tough. I'm not a board member, but as the CEO, I'm the primary staff member to report to the board. And it was a really difficult board meeting. It was actually before the NBA even had canceled. The NBA was still playing a bit. So we were early on and looking at the data that was available back in March and just said, we can't fly right now. There needs to be more certainty as to what's going on. I mean, we are flying, even with our Vietnam veterans being our youngest veterans that we're currently serving, the population of veterans that we're serving seem to be the most at risk for adverse consequences from COVID-19. And so we made the really difficult decision in March to postpone all flights for a month. So we gave ourselves until April. And then we revisited it 2 weeks later and said, you know what, nothing has changed. We kept kind of pushing that out. And by June, the writing was on the wall that really it didn't look like we were going to be able to safely fly our veterans this year. And so we ended up kind of postponing our entire 2020 flying season this year. One of the founding sort of tenets of the Honor Flight Network has always been safety. Not only getting our veterans to DC to visit their memorials, but doing so in a way that is safe for everyone involved, not only the veterans, but the volunteers who go along and help. And we just really felt that our commitment to safety just didn't allow us to fly this year. And I know our veterans would have signed any waiver we would have put in front of them saying, I don't care, I want to go. We know that, but it was a risk we just couldn't take at the time. I am extremely hopeful that we will be flying again next, like late spring. Hopefully by April, we'll be able to reopen and be flying again. The impact on us realistically has been twofold. One is our waiting list, which usually is evergreen, right? It populates, but then we take people, and so it's an ebb and a flow of numbers of people that are waiting to go on their honor flight trip. Right now, all it is flowing in. And so we've got this significant backlog now, if you will, of wait lists. And so one of my goals going into next year is to try to see how we can increase our capacity and get more veterans to DC next year than we typically do. So just to give you an idea, in a typical year across the Honor Flight Network, so all of our 125 hubs plus our Lone Eagle program, we take about 22,000 veterans a year to visit their memorials in DC. That number has been pretty consistent across the last 4 to 5 years, I would say. So about since 2015, we've been at about that 22,000 mark. Not only are there monetary considerations, we are completely funded by donations. We have some sponsors, but it's mostly very grassroots and donation based, all donation based. But not only is it financial to increase that number, the volunteer hours. I mean, it is a lot of work from a logistics standpoint to put on an honor flight trip. And so to ask the volunteers in these areas to do more, there may not be more capacity within that group to do that. And so we're trying to look at different ways we are going to be able next year to really make sure that we get our veterans there in greater numbers, hopefully, than we have ever before, and continuing to do so safely. So there are a lot of considerations, but someone just has to, I'm trying not to watch the chat, but I'm trying to watch the chat. Someone asked, do the commercial airlines provide discounted fares? No. That is one of our biggest challenges. We pay full price for chartered jets. We charter jets from airlines like Southwest, Sun Country, Allegiant, Spirit. We pay to charter jets. They don't give us chartered jets. The only airline that provides us any real support is Southwest. They provide us 800 round trip tickets a year that we distribute then out to our hubs, which is wonderful. I mean, the value of that is significant. But if you think about the numbers, we fly 22,000 veterans a year. That's 800 tickets. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into funding this and making sure that we're getting as many veterans there as safely as we can, but also as efficiently as we can, since, you know, donations are always a big concern, especially this year. Well, you know, with the COVID year, one of the ways we people get involved with the Honor Flight Network or want to support us is they see us at the airport. There's always a big commotion when a trip comes home or when a trip is leaving, and everybody wants to know what's going on. And then they find out and they look us up, and it's really neat. And you know, this year we're not going to have that sort of grassroots piece of people just kind of seeing us at the airport. So hopefully we are able to just continue, you know, working the hard work here and putting in the hours and trying to get the support that we need. But yeah, commercial airline wise, we pay if we fly a commercial flight. If you see us on a flight, those tickets were paid just like yours. And medical staff wise, yes, there's typically medical staff that travels with every hub. They are there to really just triage. So if someone is having an issue, you know, they're not going to treat. They're going to call 911, but they're going to be there to be able to triage and see, you know, kind of assess the situation for us. But yeah, every hub typically flies with an EMT or a nurse or a physician, just depending on the hub or who travels that time.
So how can interested parties participate in your program?
So those who are interested, you can find your local hub. If any of you want to start a hub in your area, let me know, because you know, that Myrtle Beach hub, just not having that has been, you know, I know there's a significant military presence in the area, and so I would love to have a hub down there. If you know of anyone who might be interested, get them in touch with me. You're always welcome to find an airport and go support our veterans as we come home on trips once we're flying again next year. We do post all of our flights on our website. So at honorflight.org, there's in the top, it might be in the left now. I think we kind of redid our website. So on the left side there is a menu, and you can see when the flights are taking place. It doesn't tell you exactly when they're returning, but you can always reach out to the hub leader, which you'll be able to click, and it'll automatically populate an email for you to them, and you can go out and see how you can help.
Excellent. And I will say, I'm going to ask those questions that were posted in the chat box to you now. But for those watching on here that weren't on before we got started, Meredith is coming to us this morning from Dublin, Ohio. So I assume that is where the home office of Honor Flight is located?
We were located in Springfield, Ohio. So Earl, when he started the network, Earl was in Springfield, and he was sort of the pioneer, if you will, of getting everything formed. And so we were formed in Springfield. We actually had a physical office in Springfield for many years. At the end of last year, we decided the overhead was just too significant, and we were working fairly remotely anyway. My COO is in Michigan. My bookkeeper is in West Virginia, and our bus coordinator is in Cleveland, and I'm in Dublin. And so really I was the only person going to the office, and it didn't make sense to maintain that overhead. And so now we are a remote office, but we are still based in Ohio. So to answer that question, yes, we're based in Ohio, so we are still an Ohio organization.
So can you tell us how do you get your money to buy flights for veterans? So how is Honor Flight funded?
Mostly through donations of individuals and businesses. We do have some corporate sponsors, and one of the changes when I came in that I wanted to look into is our grassroots support is amazing, which is just, you know, people like you that have seen the Honor Flight Network, that send in a check for $50 and consistently do that. But I think as times change and things have changed, we really needed to kind of be more formal about how we are funded, because we need to make sure that we can continue to serve our veterans. Our waiting list specifically for Vietnam veterans is long, and we want to get those veterans down to see the wall, and they deserve to that trip as well. And so when I came in, we are looking more into now, how do we get some long-term, support from larger corporations and participation in our program in some more meaningful ways. We just started a program with EF, Explore America. They do actually student trips for like middle school students to DC, that the class trips that all go to DC. And we're now coordinating with them, although this year it's on hold. We're coordinating with them to have student groups that are in DC on their class trip meet up with our honor flight trips that are in DC. And at least the students that have, at a minimum, will clap them into the World War II Memorial, because that's the easiest, logistically the easiest place for them to stand and do that. But they have signs up to thank all of our veterans, and we have all of the conflicts listed. And it's really been a phenomenal experience for both our veterans and for the students that have been there. And so that is, EF is a for-profit business, and has now, we have a long-term support agreement with them to continue that program in particular. The veterans have loved it. There's a common misconception, I think, that our students aren't learning about history anymore, and particularly the wars. And so it's been really nice for our veterans to see that they are actually learning about that, and they are really excited to see our veterans when they get the opportunity.
One viewer did post a comment in the chat that I think is worthy of noting, as she has gone to 2 arrivals here in the Myrtle Beach area, and she took Girl Scouts both times, and she said it was a very moving, and she was honored they were there, and many tears were shed, she said.
We love seeing our Girl Scouts and our Boy Scouts at our welcome homes, because our veterans love to see them. I think it's wonderful. I myself have a 9 and 10-year-old, and I want them to be respectful of our veterans and understanding the sacrifices that our veterans made for our freedoms. And so bringing them to an honor flight welcome home is, I think, a phenomenal way to get yourselves involved, to show your kids that they can be involved. And it's such a wonderful event. It truly is. So thank you for bringing your Girl Scouts out. We really do appreciate it.
Next question from the viewer is, do you have a listing of all veterans, and do you promote this program to them?
We do not maintain a database of our veterans, and it is probably far too late to go back and try to recreate that. The individual hubs typically do keep a database of the veterans they have served, but we do not keep one compiled database at the national level. The way we promote the Honor Flight program has been in large part, as we have been in large part, grassroots. Most of the time, people from the hub will go out to the Legions, to the VFWs, to some of the other veteran organizations in the area, to the VA. If the VA clinic will let us put our stuff out at the VA, they're a little bit finicky about that. But we do try to reach out to those groups to let them know who we are and what we do. Every veteran flies for free on their honor flight trip. There is no charge for a veteran to fly. If you fly as a guardian, there is a fee to fly as a guardian. The guardian is sort of the person that travels as a companion with the veteran, but that just covers our cost for that seat on the airplane, pretty much. And so it doesn't really fund the program. It just funds that seat for us, because otherwise we'd be flying 50,000 people a year, and I don't think we could fund all of that. But we are working on some initiatives to hopefully, this is one of my other dream sort of things, if you will, to fly all veterans for free. So where a guardian is also a veteran, I would like to figure out a funding stream so that those veterans could fly for free as well, because I think at least one time as a guardian, there's so much to be said for being a guardian on an honor flight trip too. It's really impactful, and to watch the day through the eyes of the veteran that you're accompanying is truly amazing. It's really, really, really impactful.
Meredith, a viewer wants to know if you have any military background yourself.
I personally do not. My grandfather is a World War II veteran, and he went, years and years ago on an honor flight trip. And so that was kind of the impetus for my interest in the organization. And so that's how I kind of got involved. I've known Jeff Miller for years and years and years. And so working with him just kind of all came together.
A viewer did ask about a hub in lower South Carolina, maybe in the Charleston area, but I believe you said earlier the only one in South Carolina is Simpsonville in the upstate.
That is correct.
And you mentioned funding earlier. Do you get any funding from government?
No.
Okay. And tell us the guidelines for the participants. So, like, how do they become a participant on the honor flight?
So if you are a veteran and you have served in the Vietnam, Korean, or World War II, or in between, you would find your local hub on our website, and you can go to the hub's website then and pull the veteran application. Fill out the application and follow the instructions to send the application back to the hub, and the hub will then officially put you on their waiting list. The way we prioritize, and most of our hubs do this, this is our recommendation from the national organization, but not all of them. This is not one of those things that I am like dead set on, but it's important. We prioritize by conflict. So if you're a World War II veteran and you apply today, you will automatically jump to the top of the list because the chances are you don't have much time left. And so we want to make sure we get you there. Followed then by Korea, in between time, which is very little there, and then in between time, and then our Vietnam veterans. We also serve terminally ill veterans from any time of service. And so if someone is terminally ill, we make sure to get them on a flight, and they get prioritized just like a World War II veteran would be prioritized. We have a special, our Lone Eagle program at the national office. We also handle our TLC veterans, which is their last chance, that's what we call them. So those are our terminally ill veterans. We bring them along on our trip if the hub doesn't have a trip coming up. So some of our hubs only travel once or twice a year. Again, funding, time, like all of those things are considerations for how often a hub can do a trip. But we make sure that those terminally ill veterans get on a flight, hopefully within a few months of when they send in their application.
Next question is viewer submitted. Have you explored the contractors who supply military uniforms, equipment, etc., to be sponsors of honor flight?
So we were I feel very blessed that we have just recently brought in a chief development officer to our national staff. She's working with us on a part-time basis, had previously worked with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, so she is phenomenal. And one of the things that Carol's going to be doing is really taking the time. Her day job is to explore the funding from possible sources. And I think some of these government contractors and those kind of groups are awesome opportunities for us. We also just recently had, do you guys have a Mission Barbecue? I feel like you do.
We
Maybe
do.
Not.
We do.
I thought Mission Barbecue just did a cup for Honor Flight. The cup promotion for Honor Flight is done now, but there will be another one next year. So I'll make sure I reach out to you guys and let you know so you can go buy your cup. But they sell a $2 reusable cup, and it had the Honor Flight logo on it, and $1 from every cup goes to the Honor Flight network. And so that will actually get distributed to hubs throughout our network to help veterans around the country be able to go on their Honor Flight trip. And so those are some of the things that we're working on. That was a brand new promotion for us this year. We were really excited to partner with Mission Barbecue because it just fits so well with our mission and what we do. So those are the types of things we're looking at. And I'm truly thrilled that we have Carol now to help us with some of these funders.
Are guardians one-to-one to vets on the flight?
It depends. Every World War II veteran and pretty much every Korean War veteran is one-to-one. Some hubs, just depending on how they structure it and how much space they have, will allow there to be 2 Vietnam vets and 1 guardian. But that's the largest ratio. I don't know which way to go with that, largest or small. 2 to 1 is, that would be there would be no 3-to-1. A lot of our hubs will actually, to maximize the number of veterans they can take, we'll take less Guardians on the flight, but we'll pick up Guardians in DC. And in DC is really where it matters, because that's where the walking is and the on and off of the bus. And that's it's a long day. I saw somebody post, it's a long day. It is a very long day. Unfortunately, you know, if we did overnights for every hub, I don't know that we could afford it. We'd have to cut way back on the number of veterans we could serve. But the veterans never complain. They're amazing. They love it. It's an exhilarating day. They're running on, you know, just adrenaline all day, because it really is exciting. You know, you see things with honor flight, and we call it honor flight magic, and then followed immediately by honor flight allergies. You suffer from a lot of allergies. That's when your eyes start watering a little bit and your nose runs a little bit. But I was at the Korean War Memorial recently. I served as a Guardian. I don't go very often because I don't feel like I want to take up a seat for someone who is a veteran. But I was asked to go on a particular trip for some particular reasons. And I went and I served as a Guardian for a Korean War veteran. And we were at the Korean War Memorial, and we had some Korean nationals who were obviously visiting Washington, D.C., come up to my veteran and shake his hand and say, "Thank you for saving our country. They said, we don't forget you." And he just proceeded to just tears, honor flight allergies, full force. But some truly amazing things happen. And that's, you know, he said, he's like, I thought everyone had forgotten. And he's like, and today I know now that no one has forgotten. And so it's really, really an impactful, like, that's just my little story. And it's truly, those things happen on a regular basis. And it's an amazing thing. I'm blessed to be a part of it, because I think, you know, what we just do good. We just are here to do good. There are no strings attached. We just take our veterans to DC so that they get the honor and the recognition they deserve for their sacrifice.
That's outstanding. One final question for you is, how many other groups do honor flights?
That's a great question. So our network has the 125 sanctioned hubs. We do add hubs from time to time. There are some groups that look alike, and you have to be, we try to be very careful. One of my main jobs as CEO is to police our trademark. I am watching for people who are using our trademark that don't have the authorization to do so. There's a group called Honor Air, I believe, that run a program that's very similar. But watch, because there are other groups that try to look like us, but they charge veterans to go, and we would never do that. And so, you know, there are groups that try to do what we do. Of course, I'm biased a bit, but I think we do it best. I just think our focus on safety and our, you know, the logistics that we've created in DC and around DC in terms of the support we have is it really makes the day truly incredible. And so, you know, if you see something, if you see a misuse of the honor flight name, let me know. It's kind of my day job.
Well, we really appreciate you spending some time with us this morning and explaining all that is honor flight. Several people said chills. Several people said they have the honor flight allergies now. So thank you again very much.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much. Greatly appreciate you.
For those of you on the call this morning, thank you for being here. As you know, we do these calls 3 times every week: Mondays at 11, Wednesdays at noon, and Friday at 11. I'm going to give a shout out to the next 2 so that we hope we see you and your fellow Rotarians on Wednesday and Friday. Coming up on Wednesday is Jerry Balloon from the Lexington Chronicle. He's going to be talking about survival of print news in small towns. And then Friday, September 18th, Melissa Hansen from the Savannah River site will be with us. So those are your next 2 people that will be speaking to our group. Thank you so much for being here. I will conclude with the Rotary 4-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks again, Meredith. Hope everyone has a wonderful Monday. we'll see you on Wednesday for the next conversation with Rotary Action People. Take care. Bye-bye.